In 1939, the world was standing on the edge of destruction. One invasion, one decision, one war changed the future of humanity forever. World War II was not just a battle between armies. It was a war between ideas. Democracy against dictatorship, freedom against occupation. It was a struggle for survival against total destruction. More than 70 countries were pulled into the conflict. Over 100 million soldiers and civilians were mobilized. And by the end, an estimated 70 to 85 million people had died. That means nearly 3% of the world's population at that time was wiped out. Cities were burned, empires collapsed, new superpowers were born. Science entered the atomic age, and the modern world order was created from the ashes of war. This is the story of World War II, explained clearly, step by step, and how one war changed the world forever. To understand World War II, we must first understand what happened after World War I. World War I ended in 1918. Germany and its allies were defeated. In 1919, the Treaty of Versailles was signed. This treaty punished Germany heavily. Germany had to accept responsibility for the war. It had to pay huge reparations. It lost territory. Its army was reduced. Its navy was limited. And Germany was not allowed to build a powerful military again. For many Germans, this treaty felt like national humiliation. At the same time, the German economy collapsed. Inflation became so bad that people needed bags of money just to buy bread. Then came the Great Depression of 1929. Factories closed. Banks failed. Millions lost their jobs. People became angry, desperate, and afraid. In this situation, extreme leaders began to rise. In Germany, Adolf Hitler promised to restore pride, rebuild the economy, and make Germany powerful again. In Italy, Benito Mussolini promoted fascism and dreamed of rebuilding a new Roman Empire. In Japan, military leaders wanted to expand across Asia to control land, resources, and power. The world wanted peace, but dictators were preparing for war. Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany in 1933. Very quickly, he destroyed democracy from inside the system. Political opponents were arrested. Free speech was crushed. The press was controlled. The Nazi Party became the only real power in Germany. Hitler used propaganda to control people's minds. He blamed Germany's problems on scapegoats and promised revenge. Hitler also began secretly rebuilding the German military. Germany built tanks, aircraft, and prepared for expansion. By the late 1930s, Germany was no longer weak. It was becoming a dangerous military machine. Before World War II officially began, many warning signs were already visible. In 1931, Japan invaded Manchuria in China. In 1935, Italy invaded Ethiopia. In 1936, Germany sent troops into the Rhineland, an area where German troops were not allowed. Each time, the world protested, but no strong action was taken. Britain and France followed a policy called appeasement, but Hitler did not stop. In 1938, Germany annexed Austria. Then Hitler demanded the Sudetenland. Britain and France agreed at the Munich Conference, hoping this would prevent war. In March 1939, Germany took the rest of Czechoslovakia. Now it was clear. Hitler wanted domination. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland. This was the beginning of World War II. Germany used a new military strategy called Blitzkrieg, meaning lightning war. Blitzkrieg was fast, shocking, and destructive. First, aircraft bombed enemy positions. Then tanks broke through defenses. Then infantry followed quickly to capture territory. Poland was attacked from the west by Germany. Then, on September 17, 1939, the Soviet Union invaded Poland from the east. Poland was trapped. Within weeks, Poland was defeated. Britain and France declared war on Germany. The Second World War had officially begun. But at first, there was little fighting in Western Europe. This quiet period was called the Phony War. But the silence would not last. In 1940, Germany began a massive campaign in Western Europe. First, Germany invaded Denmark and Norway. Then Germany attacked Belgium, the Netherlands, and France. France had one of the strongest armies in Europe, but Germany used speed, surprise, and tanks to break through. The German army moved through the Ardennes forest, an area the Allies believed was too difficult for tanks. This move shocked the French and British forces. Hundreds of thousands of Allied soldiers were trapped near the French port of Dunkirk. Between May 26 and June 4, 1940, more than 330,000 Allied soldiers were evacuated from Dunkirk. It was a military disaster, but also a miracle of survival. Soon after, Paris fell. France surrendered in June 1940. In less than 2 years, Hitler had conquered much of Europe. Britain now stood almost alone. After France fell, Hitler planned to invade Britain. But before German troops could cross the English Channel, Germany needed control of the sky. So began the Battle of Britain in 1940. The German Air Force, called the Luftwaffe, launched massive bombing raids against airfields, radar stations, and cities. Britain's Royal Air Force fought back. British pilots fought day after day in the skies. One of Britain's biggest advantages was radar. Radar helped detect incoming German aircraft before they arrived. Prime Minister Winston Churchill inspired the nation with powerful speeches. He told the British people they would never surrender. Germany failed to destroy the Royal Air Force. Hitler postponed the invasion. This was one of the first major failures of Nazi Germany. For the first time, Hitler's war machine had been stopped. On June 22, 1941, Hitler made one of the biggest decisions of the war. Germany invaded the Soviet Union. The invasion was called Operation Barbarossa. It was the largest land invasion in history. More than 3 million Axis soldiers moved into Soviet territory. Hitler wanted land, oil, food, and complete control of Eastern Europe. At first, Germany advanced quickly. Millions of Soviet soldiers were captured. Thousands of tanks and aircraft were destroyed. But the Soviet Union was huge. The winter was brutal. German soldiers were not prepared for the extreme cold. The Battle of Moscow became a turning point. The Soviet army counterattacked. Germany had failed to defeat the Soviet Union quickly. This was a major mistake. Hitler had opened a war on 2 fronts. While war was raging in Europe, Japan was expanding across Asia. Japan needed oil, rubber, and raw materials for its empire. The United States opposed Japan's expansion and placed economic sanctions on Japan. This created a major crisis. On December 7, 1941, Japan attacked the American naval base at Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. The attack was sudden and devastating. More than 2,400 Americans were killed. Many ships and aircraft were destroyed or damaged. The next day, the United States declared war on Japan. Then Germany declared war on the United States. Now the war had become truly global. The United States brought massive industrial power into the conflict. American factories began producing weapons and supplies on an enormous scale. World War II was no longer only a European war. It was now a worldwide war. By 1942, the Axis powers, Germany, Italy, and Japan, controlled huge territories. But the tide of war was beginning to turn. In the Pacific, the United States defeated Japan at the Battle of Midway in June 1942. This battle destroyed several Japanese aircraft carriers and stopped Japan's expansion across the Pacific. In North Africa, British forces defeated German and Italian troops at the Battle of El Alamein. This helped protect the Suez Canal and Middle Eastern oil routes. But the most brutal turning point happened in the Soviet Union. The city was called Stalingrad. Germany wanted to capture it because of its industrial importance and symbolic value. The battle lasted from August 1942 to February 1943. It became one of the deadliest battles in human history. Soldiers fought street by street, building by building, room by room. The winter was freezing. Food was limited. Casualties were enormous. In February 1943, the German army surrendered at Stalingrad. This was a massive defeat for Hitler. After Stalingrad, Germany never fully recovered on the Eastern Front. The Soviet Union began pushing west. By 1944, the Allies were ready to open a new front in Western Europe. On June 6, 1944, the Allies launched D-Day. The operation was called Operation Overlord. It was the largest amphibious invasion in history. More than 156,000 Allied troops landed on the beaches of Normandy on the first day. The beaches had code names: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword. German defenses were strong. The risk was enormous. At Omaha Beach, American soldiers faced heavy fire and suffered heavy losses. But the Allies kept moving forward. D-Day succeeded. It opened the road to the liberation of France. Paris was liberated in August 1944. By early 1945, Germany was collapsing. Allied bombing had destroyed many German cities. Fuel was running out. Factories were damaged. The army was exhausted. The Soviet army advanced toward Berlin from the east. Western Allied forces advanced from the west. In April 1945, the Battle of Berlin began. Soviet troops fought their way into the German capital. Hitler hid in an underground bunker. On April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler died by suicide. On May 8th, 1945, Germany surrendered. This day is remembered as VE Day. The war in Europe was over, but the war in the Pacific continued. Japan continued fighting even after Germany surrendered. The United States had been moving island by island across the Pacific. Battles like Iwo Jima and Okinawa showed how costly an invasion of Japan could be. American leaders believed it might cost hundreds of thousands of lives. Meanwhile, the secret Manhattan Project had developed a new weapon, the atomic bomb. On August 6, 1945, an atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, followed by Nagasaki 3 days later. The destruction was instant and massive. Tens of thousands died instantly. On September 2, 1945, Japan formally surrendered. World War II was over. Humanity had entered the atomic age. World War II was the deadliest conflict in human history. An estimated 70 to 85 million people died. The Soviet Union suffered the highest number of deaths, with around 27 million people killed. China and Poland also lost millions. But it was not only fought on battlefields. Civilians were bombed in cities, families were forced from their homes, and millions became refugees. The Holocaust was one of the darkest crimes in human history. The Nazis murdered around 6 million Jews, as well as many others. World War II showed how dangerous hatred and propaganda can become when they control a nation. World War II changed borders. It changed governments. It changed technology. It changed global power. And it changed the way humans understood war itself. Before World War II, empires ruled much of the world. After World War II, the modern world began. The United Nations was born. The Cold War began. Nuclear weapons changed military strategy forever. Colonized nations demanded freedom. And the world learned that another global war could mean the end of civilization. World War II was not just history. It was a warning. A warning that hatred can destroy nations. A warning that silence can empower dictators, and a warning that peace is one of humanity's greatest responsibilities. This was World War II explained, how one war changed the world.